On your knees, boy. Lick my boots clean like a good little slave. Derrick Collins's spit landed on Jalen Hunter's face as 200 inmates erupted in savage laughter. The white supremacist's steel-toed boot pressed against Jalen's temple, forcing him toward the concrete. "That's what your kind was made for," Derrick sneered, loud enough for every phone camera to capture. "Serving your betters." Jalen knelt motionless in the Millfield prison yard. No tears, no begging, just unsettling stillness as Derrick's crew howled with delight. But something felt wrong about this scene. The way Jalen positioned his hands, the controlled breathing, the calculated patience in his dark eyes as he studied Derrick's stance, measuring something the bully couldn't comprehend. Derrick had no idea what kind of predator he'd just cornered. Have you ever witnessed someone so dangerously calm that their silence promised future violence? Millfield Correctional Facility squats like a concrete cancer on 37 acres of Ohio farmland. 20-foot walls topped with razor wire cage 2,400 of America's most dangerous men inside a maze of steel and desperation. The yard divides into invisible territories marked by blood and reputation. Cell blocks A and B belong to the Black Disciples. The Latinos control the kitchen and laundry. But Derrick Collins owns the most valuable real estate, Blocks C and D, where the commissary money flows and the weak get devoured. Jalen Ghost Hunter doesn't belong to any of these worlds. 32 years old, 5'10", with the quiet intensity of a man carrying secrets. His paperwork says assault, 18 months for defending his sister from a home invasion. What it doesn't say is why 2 gang members ended up dead and why the police found them with injuries they'd never seen before. In his cell, Jalen reads philosophy books while his bunkmate Tommy Nguyen codes on a contraband tablet. Tommy notices things others miss. How Jalen completes 500 perfect push-ups every morning at exactly 0500 hours without making a sound. How he moves through the prison corridors like water, fluid, purposeful, invisible. "You military?" Tommy asked once. "Something like that," was all Jalen said. Tommy, serving 3 years for cyber fraud, recognizes discipline when he sees it. But this feels different, deeper, like watching a weapon pretending to be a man. Derrick Collins built his empire on a simple principle: find the weak, break them, profit from their desperation. At 38, he's spent 12 years perfecting this system. 6'2", 220 pounds of prison muscle and pure hatred, with swastika tattoos crawling up his neck like poisonous vines. His operation runs with corporate efficiency. New inmates pay a welcome tax of $50. Weekly protection fees range from $25 to $100, depending on vulnerability. Refuse to pay? Derrick's crew of 8 enforcers ensures compliance through escalating violence that always stops just short of attracting serious attention. The guards know. Warden Patricia Steele suspects. But Derrick's network of corruption runs deep. 3 guards on payroll, 1 administrator who owes gambling debts, and a medical staff member who documents training accidents instead of assault injuries. Officer Luis Martinez represents the minority. Honest guards trapped in a corrupt system. 20-year veteran, former Army Ranger, he watches Derrick's operation with growing disgust but lacks concrete evidence to act. Derrick's Lieutenant Jake Morrison handles day-to-day operations. Shorter than Derrick, but twice as vicious, Jake enjoys the psychological aspects of breaking inmates. He studies each new arrival like a predator identifying prey, searching for family photos, personal items, anything that reveals weakness. When Jalen arrived 4 weeks ago, Jake's assessment was immediate. College boy, quiet type, no gang connections, perfect victim. They were wrong about everything except the quiet part. Jalen spends his days in the prison library, a converted storage room with donated books and broken chairs. While other inmates fight over basketball courts and weight equipment, he researches philosophy, psychology, military history. The librarian, Mrs. Lane, Tommy's aunt who got him the job, notices his reading patterns. "You're studying them," she observes one afternoon, nodding toward the yard where Derrick's crew shakes down a terrified 18-year-old. Jalen doesn't deny it. Know your environment. Understand the threat. What Mrs. Lane doesn't know is that Jalen's real education happened in places most Americans can't pronounce. 8 years moving through hostile territory where one mistake meant death, where silence was survival and violence was a last resort that came with surgical precision. His cell reflects this discipline. No personal items except a single photo of his deceased sister, Maria. His few possessions were arranged with military precision. Everything is clean, functional, and prepared for rapid movement. Tommy watches Jalen's evening routine with fascination. The way he checks lock mechanisms, memorizes guard rotations, maps sight lines, and camera positions. Most inmates adapt to prison. This one analyzes it like a battlefield. "Are you planning something?" Tommy asks. Jalen closes his book, Sun Tzu's Art of War, and meets his cellmate's eyes. In war, patience is the deadliest weapon. Neither man realizes that across the prison, Derrick Collins is planning Jalen's final humiliation. Tomorrow, the real war begins. Day 7 in Millfield. Jalen returns from his library shift to find his cell transformed into a crime scene. His philosophy books lie torn in half, pages scattered like confetti. The single photo of his sister Maria, her face slashed with a razor blade, sits propped against his pillow like a threat. His toothbrush floats in the toilet. His few possessions were destroyed with methodical cruelty. Derrick Collins leans against the cell door frame with 3 enforcers flanking him. Jake Morrison tosses Jalen's ripped mattress pad into the hallway. "Welcome tax," Derrick announces with practiced authority. $75 a week, due every Friday. Jalen's jaw tightens as he picks up Maria's destroyed photograph. His sister died 6 months ago, cervical cancer at 28. This photo was all he had left. "I don't have any money," he says quietly. Derrick's crew erupts in laughter. "Then you work it off, college boy," Jake sneers. "Kitchen detail, cleaning our cells, washing our underwear. Whatever we say, whenever we say it." Derrick steps closer, his breath reeking of contraband alcohol. "Books and big words won't protect you here. You think you're better than us because you can read?" The question hangs in the air like smoke. Jalen's training screams tactical solutions. Derrick's stance is amateur. Weight forward, chin exposed, hands loose at his sides. In the real world, Jalen could incapacitate all 4 men in under 8 seconds without breaking a sweat. But prison operates by different rules than the battlefield. "And if you snitch," Derrick drags a sharpened fingernail across his throat slowly. "Well, accidents happen every day here. New fish disappear all the time." Officer Martinez appears at the end of the corridor, forcing Derrick's crew to scatter like roaches. He surveys the destroyed cell but arrives too late to witness any direct threats. "Everything okay here, Hunter?" Martinez asks. Derrick smirks from 10 feet away, confident in his system's protection. "Just getting acquainted," Jalen replies, his voice steady despite the violence. That night, Tommy helps him clean up the wreckage. "They're testing you, man. Show weakness once, you're prey forever." Jalen stares at his sister's ruined face in the photograph. In Afghanistan, enemies who touch civilian families rarely live to regret it. But this isn't Kandahar. This is a different kind of war zone with different rules of engagement. The question is, how long can a predator pretend to be prey? Week 2 brings systematic psychological warfare. Jalen's work assignments mysteriously change overnight. Kitchen duty becomes toilet scrubbing with his bare hands. Library privilege transforms into mopping floors while Derrick's crew tracks mud across his fresh work. Each task designed to break dignity one humiliation at a time. "Faster, boy," Jake Morrison commands, watching Jalen clean their cell block bathroom. "My grandmother scrubs better than you, and she's been dead for 10 years. The crew erupts in laughter, but Jalen continues working without reaction. This calm infuriates them more than tears or rage ever could. Derrick studies his new victim from the shadows. 12 years of breaking inmates taught him to read weakness like a roadmap. Fear shows in stuttering speech and nervous glances. Desperation reveals itself through bargaining and pleading, but Jalen displays neither. "Something's off about this one," Derrick confides to Jake during their evening cell block meeting. "Most guys either swing on us by now or start crying for their mothers. This college boy just watches, like he's taking notes." Jake shrugs. "Maybe he's just stupid. Some of these educated types freeze up when real violence comes calling." But Derrick's predator instincts whisper otherwise. Week 3 escalates to public theater. During mandatory yard time, Derrick orchestrates Jalen's ultimate degradation before 200 witnesses. He corners Jalen near the basketball court where cameras can't capture audio, but every inmate can see the show. "You've been disrespecting me, boy," Derrick announces loudly enough for the growing crowd. Time to apologize properly. He forces Jalen to his knees on the concrete, pressing down on his shoulders until he's eye level with Derrick's crotch. The symbolism isn't lost on anyone watching. Say you're sorry for thinking you're better than us, Derrick commands. I'm sorry, Jalen replies without hesitation. But something unsettling happens. While his voice carries submission, his eyes remain steady, calculating, like a sniper acquiring target data through a scope. Several inmates exchange glances. Broken men shake with fear or rage. This one looks like he's memorizing Derrick's vulnerabilities for future reference. Week 4 brings Derrick's protection racket into play. I'm gonna help you out, college boy, Derrick says during lunch, sliding into the seat across from Jalen. These other gangs have been talking about you, saying you think you're special. Lucky for you, I can provide protection. His offer comes with a price tag, $150 weekly. When Jalen declines, Derrick's insurance policy activates. 3 MS-13 members corner Jalen during dinner, shoving him and spilling his tray. Right on cue, Derrick appears to rescue him from the staged harassment. See what happens when you don't have proper protection? Derrick asks afterward. But Jalen's reaction confuses everyone involved. Instead of gratitude or fear, he studies the staged attack like a tactician analyzing enemy movement patterns. His questions are too specific, too tactical. How did they know I'd be walking that route? Who told them my schedule? Derrick dismisses the questions as paranoia, but Jake Morrison feels a chill of unease. Week 5 brings psychological warfare. Derrick's crew spreads the deadliest rumor in prison, that Jalen is a child molester. The accusation spreads through the facility like wildfire. Inmates who once ignored him now openly threaten violence. His table in the chow hall empties. Guards receive anonymous tips about his suspicious behavior. Most inmates facing these accusations either request protective custody or suffer brutal vigilante justice. Jalen does neither. He handles the isolation with the same eerie calm that's beginning to unnerve even Derrick's most loyal followers. Tommy Nguyen becomes his only ally, and even that requires courage. They're trying to get you killed, Tommy warns during their nightly conversation. I know, Jalen replies, never looking up from his book on asymmetric warfare. Doesn't that scare you? Fear is a luxury I can't afford. The response chills Tommy more than any threat ever could. Unknown to Derrick, Jalen treats this harassment like a covert operation. He maps the prison's power structure with military precision. Guard rotations memorized to the minute, camera blind spots identified and cataloged, Derrick's daily patterns documented in a mental file that would impress Pentagon analysts. Tommy, with his cyber background, helps digitally document everything using his contraband tablet. Financial flows, corruption networks, communication patterns. They build an intelligence profile that would make the CIA proud. But Jalen's facade of calm requires increasing effort. During weekly phone calls to his Aunt Rosa, his only remaining family, she notices strain creeping into his voice. Mijo, you sound different. What's happening there? He can't tell her. Can't explain that every day requires the self-control that once helped him survive behind enemy lines. The difference is that in Afghanistan he could eliminate threats permanently. Here, fighting back means losing everything. I'm fine, Tia, just counting down the days. But they both know he's lying. Derrick's growing obsession with breaking Jalen becomes personal. Late at night, he shares his frustration with Jake Morrison in hushed tones that carry through the concrete walls. 12 years I've been perfecting this system. Hundreds of inmates were broken and rebuilt in my image. I can crack anyone within a month, but this guy, it's like trying to intimidate a mountain. Jake suggests escalating to serious violence, but Derrick shakes his head. Not yet. I want to understand what makes him tick first. Then I'll break whatever that is. What Derrick doesn't realize is that across the cell block, Jalen lies awake listening to every word through ventilation shafts that carry sound like telephone wires. His acoustic surveillance skills, honed in Afghan caves, work perfectly in American concrete. He knows Derrick's next move before Derrick does. Week 6 brings the physical escalation Jalen has been preparing for. Derrick corners him in the shower area. No cameras, no witnesses except Jake Morrison and 2 other enforcers. The perfect kill zone. I'm done playing games, college boy, Derrick hisses, pressing a sharpened spoon against Jalen's throat. You pay up, or tomorrow they find you hanging in your cell. For the first time, Jalen's body betrays him. His hands shift almost imperceptibly into a combat stance. His breathing changes from normal to tactical. Muscle memory from 1,000 life-or-death situations kicks in automatically. Derrick notices the shift but misinterprets it completely. Finally showing some fear? Good. Fear keeps you alive here. If only he knew that Jalen's shift wasn't fear, it was target acquisition. The predator was done pretending to be prey. 0300 hours, Cell Block C sleeps in uneasy silence. Tommy Nguyen lies awake, listening to Jalen's controlled breathing in the bunk below. For 6 weeks, he's watched his cellmate endure systematic torture with inhuman patience. Tonight feels different, dangerous. You're not sleeping either, Jalen whispers. Tommy sits up. Derrick's planning something big. My sources in the kitchen say he's been asking about your schedule, when you shower, when you're alone. In the darkness, Jalen finally speaks the truth that's been eating at him for weeks. 8 years, Navy SEAL Team 6, call sign Ghost, 47 successful operations across 12 countries. His voice carries the weight of classified nightmares. I could end Derrick and his entire crew without breaking a sweat. Tommy's blood runs cold. Then why haven't you? Because this isn't Afghanistan. In here, winning a fight means losing everything else. But Tommy hears something new in Jalen's voice. A decision crystallizing. What if there was a way to win without losing? Tommy asks carefully. Jalen turns toward him in the darkness. I'm listening. Let Derrick make his move publicly. Let him be the aggressor on camera. Then you defend yourself with exactly enough force to stop him. No more, no less. And if I misjudge the force, then Derrick learns why they called you Ghost. For the first time in weeks, Jalen allows himself a grim smile. Tommy, yeah, tomorrow, stay far away from Derrick Collins. 2:47 p.m. The equipment shed behind Millfield's main yard sits in a perfect blind spot. 30 seconds from the nearest guard tower, no security cameras, isolated enough for Derrick's final solution. Jalen stands alone by the rusted weight equipment, apparently absorbed in reading Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings. The irony isn't lost on him. A 17th century samurai's wisdom about meeting 21's 8th century brutality. Derrick approaches with his 4 deadliest enforcers. Jake Morrison flanks his right, short, vicious, hungry for blood. Carlos Vega represents the MS-13 Alliance, quick with a blade, quicker with rage. Tommy Wright brings Aryan Brotherhood muscle, 6 3 inches of prison-forged hatred. Dean Foster serves as Derrick's personal bodyguard, 6'4", 250 pounds of pure intimidation. They move like predators approaching cornered prey. Unknown to Derrick, 12 inmates position themselves strategically throughout the yard. Tommy Nguyen's network, each carrying contraband recording devices. The ambush is about to become a documentary. Time's up, college boy. Derrick's voice cuts through the afternoon air like a death sentence. He shoves Jalen hard enough to send the book flying 15 feet across concrete. You owe me $500 now, interest and penalties included. Inmates begin gathering, sensing inevitable violence. The prison yard's unwritten law. Witness everything, remember nothing, survive another day. Get on your knees one last time, Derrick commands, loud enough for every phone camera to capture. Beg real pretty, and maybe I'll only break both your arms instead of your neck. Jalen looks up from the scattered pages of his book. For 6 weeks, he's endured systematic humiliation with inhuman patience. But something fundamental shifts in his dark eyes. The prey stops pretending. I'm done kneeling, he says quietly. Derrick's face twists with rage. Wrong answer, boy. He swings a massive right hook aimed at Jalen's temple, a knockout punch thrown with 12 years of prison yard brutality behind it. Time slows to combat speed. Seconds 1, 3. Ghost protocol activated. Jalen slips the punch with minimal movement, a textbook seal evasion technique that makes Derrick's fist pass through empty air like grasping at smoke. Derrick's momentum carries him forward, completely off balance, weight distribution destroyed. Jalen's counter is surgical precision disguised as street fighting. A short uppercut to Derrick's solar plexus, exactly enough force to collapse his diaphragm without causing permanent organ damage. Derrick doubles over, gasping like a drowning man. The watching inmates freeze in shock. Prison fights are usually brutal slugfests. This looks like choreography. Seconds 4, 6, the cascade effect. Jake Morrison lunges forward as Derrick staggers backward. Jalen performs a perfect leg sweep that sends Jake crashing into concrete with bone-jarring impact. Before Jake can recover, Jalen delivers a precise elbow strike to his temple, a SEAL technique designed to incapacitate without killing. Jake drops unconscious, blood trickling from his nose. 2 down, 3 to go. Seconds 7, 9. Double elimination. Carlos Vega and Tommy Wright attack simultaneously from opposite flanks. Standard prison mob tactics designed to overwhelm through numbers. But they've never faced someone who earned the call sign Ghost by making enemies disappear. Jalen seems to vanish between them, using their momentum against each other in a display of tactical movement that defies physics. A perfectly timed duck causes them to collide headfirst with a sickening impact. As they stagger apart, dazed and confused, Jalen delivers simultaneous strikes. Palm strike to Carlos's nose, breaking it with a wet crack. Knee strike to Tommy's ribs, fracturing 2 with precise force. Both men collapse, clutching their injuries. Seconds 10, 12. Psychological domination. Dean Foster, Derrick's biggest enforcer, charges like an enraged bull. At 6'4" and 250 pounds, he's accustomed to intimidating through size alone. Most inmates scatter when Dean attacks. Jalen sidesteps with fluid grace that makes the giant look clumsy. He grabs Dean's extended arm and performs a textbook joint lock that sends the massive enforcer crashing face first into concrete. Dean hits the ground like a falling tree. In the final second, Jalen stands over Derrick, who remains doubled over and gasping for air. The entire fight lasted 12 seconds. 5 men down, 4 unconscious, 1 struggling to breathe. Jalen hasn't even broken a sweat. The aftermath total elapsed time, 12 seconds. The gathered inmates stand in stunned silence, phone cameras capturing every frame of the most one-sided fight in Millfield's violent history. Jesus Christ. Someone whispers. That wasn't human. Word spreads through the prison like wildfire. Inmates who witness the execution describe it in hushed, reverent tones that transform fact into legend. Dude moved like water, hit like lightning. Derrick's crew never had a chance. It was like watching a ghost tear through shadows. Guards arrive as Derrick's crew begins regaining consciousness. Officer Martinez leads the response team, his military training recognizing professional combat techniques when he sees them. The security footage, which Tommy ensured would capture everything, clearly shows Derrick as the aggressor. Jalen defended himself with surgical restraint. Not once did he strike after an opponent was down. Textbook legitimate self-defense. Derrick spends 3 days in medical observation with bruised ribs and shattered pride. For 12 years, he ruled Millfield through fear and brutality. In 12 seconds, 1 quiet inmate destroyed his reputation completely. His crew members begin questioning everything. How did their supposedly invincible leader lose so completely to someone half his size? What else has Derrick been wrong about? The viral element spreads through prison networks faster than contraband drugs. Tommy's hidden recordings capture everything in stunning clarity. Within hours, inmates start calling Jalen Ghost after hearing whispered rumors about his military background. Respect in prison is earned through strength. Jalen just demonstrated strength beyond anything they've ever witnessed. He returns to his cell to find his commissary account mysteriously filled with credits, anonymous gifts from inmates who witnessed his fight. Gang leaders who previously ignored him now nod respectfully when he passes. Even rival factions show deference to the man who dismantled Derrick's empire in 12 seconds. Tommy greets him with nervous excitement. Bro, you just changed the entire power structure of this place. Derrick's finished, but now everyone's going to want to test the new top dog. Jalen sits on his bunk, picking up his scattered book. The pages about strategy and patience flutter in the evening breeze through their cell window. In the SEALs, we had a saying, he tells Tommy quietly. The only easy day was yesterday. He pauses, studying a passage about knowing when to reveal your true nature. Derrick thought he was hunting a sheep. He just learned he was stalking a wolf. But even as inmates celebrate Derrick's downfall, Jalen knows the real war is just beginning. A wounded predator is often the most dangerous kind, and Derrick Collins has 12 years of corruption to call upon for revenge. 3 days after the 12-second execution, Derrick Collins plays his deadliest card. Warden Patricia Steele calls Jalen to her office for what appears to be a routine disciplinary hearing. But when Jalen enters the sterile conference room, Derrick sits across from the warden's desk, his face still bruised, his demeanor carefully crafted to appear reasonable and victimized. 3 inmates flank Derrick like loyal soldiers. Tony Ritchie, serving time for armed robbery. Mike Santos, in for aggravated assault. David Kim, convicted of extortion. All coached to perfection, all terrified of crossing Derrick's remaining network. "Mr. Hunter," Warden Steele begins, reviewing a thick file. "You're facing serious charges of assault with a deadly weapon." Jalen's confusion is genuine. "I don't understand. I defended myself." Derrick's performance begins with Oscar-worthy precision. His voice modulates to sound concerned rather than vengeful, reasonable rather than racist. "Ma'am, this man is extremely dangerous. He attacked me and my friends without any provocation whatsoever." Derrick touches his bruised ribs gingerly. "We were simply discussing commissary privileges when he exploded into violence like some kind of trained killer." The 3 inmates nod in synchronized agreement, their testimony rehearsed to the syllable. Hunter confronted Derrick, demanding respect. Tony Ritchie lies smoothly. When Derrick refused to acknowledge his superiority, Hunter attacked like a wild animal. "I've never seen anything like it," Mike Santos adds. "The man fought like he had military training or something." David Kim delivers the killing blow. "He threatened to kill all of us if we reported him, said he knew ways to make people disappear." Derrick presents his manufactured evidence with clinical precision. Medical documentation showing injuries to 5 men, photographed from angles that maximize apparent damage. Witness statements sworn under oath, all supporting identical narratives that supposedly happened from different vantage points. But Derrick's external network provides the most devastating attack. His cousin Rachel Collins, a reporter for Channel 7 News, received an anonymous tip that morning about extreme prison violence involving a former military operative. The story writes itself. Ex-Navy SEAL continues deadly violence behind bars. The news segment airs at noon, exploding across social media within minutes. Comments pour in condemning Jalen as a trained killer who belongs in solitary forever. His military background, meant to serve his country, becomes evidence of his violent nature and inability to integrate into civilian society. The narrative ignores context, self-defense, or Derrick's 12-year criminal history. Public opinion crystallizes around a simple story. A dangerous veteran attacks innocent inmates. Jalen's overworked public defender, Sarah Martinez, reviews the case with growing despair. The evidence appears overwhelming. 5 injured men, multiple witness statements, medical documentation, and Jalen's military combat training serving as proof of his enhanced capacity for violence. "They're offering a plea deal," Sarah explains during their brief consultation. 6 months in solitary confinement, 3 additional years on your sentence, permanent restriction from the general population. And if I fight it? Federal charges for assault with deadly weapons. Your hands are classified as such due to military training. We're looking at 15 to 25 years of additional time. Derrick's isolation strategy becomes clear. Destroy Jalen legally, eliminate him from the general population permanently, ensure his silence through overwhelming consequences. If Jalen fights the charges, Derrick will escalate by claiming death threats using SEAL assassination techniques. Transferred to solitary confinement pending investigation, Jalen faces his darkest hour. The cramped concrete cell measures 6 by 9 feet, smaller than some closets. No windows, no human contact, 23 hours of isolation daily. Everything he worked for crumbles around him. Serving his time quietly, returning to his Aunt Rosa, rebuilding his life, all destroyed by a system he once swore to protect. But across the facility, unlikely allies mobilize. Tommy Nguyen begins cyber reconnaissance using his hacking skills and prison computer access. Within hours, he uncovers Derrick's pattern. 3 other inmates faced identical accusations in the past 2 years. Same witness statements, same medical photographer, same corrupt system protecting Derrick's operations. Officer Martinez starts his own investigation, driven by military instincts that recognize something fundamentally wrong. His Army Ranger background taught him to read tactical movements. Jalen's defensive techniques were professional, controlled, restrained. Derrick's crew attacked like amateur thugs. Martinez reviews months of security footage, searching for patterns. He discovers Derrick's systematic approach, staging conflicts, coaching witnesses, using the same medical staff member to document injuries from specific angles that maximize apparent damage. The breakthrough comes from an unexpected source. Tommy's cyber investigation reveals Derrick's financial records through the prison's administrative system. Derrick has been receiving regular money transfers that coincide perfectly with various incidents, clear evidence of systematic extortion. More damaging, encrypted communications between Derrick and corrupt guards discussing problem inmates and coordination of disciplinary actions. Email timestamps align exactly with previous false accusations. Derrick's own words convict him. The ghost needs to disappear permanently. Arrange the usual witnesses and make sure the medical photos look bad. Meanwhile, Derrick grows increasingly confident as Jalen's hearing approaches. He celebrates with his remaining crew, already planning how to expand operations into Jalen's empty cell block territory. 12 years perfecting this system, Derrick brags to Jake Morrison, who's still nursing a concussion from the fight. No college boy ghost is going to destroy what I built. But Martinez and Tommy secretly coordinate their evidence gathering. They realize they have enough to expose Derrick's entire corruption network: financial fraud, witness intimidation, guard bribery, systematic extortion affecting dozens of inmates over multiple years. The night before Jalen's hearing, Derrick makes a crucial mistake. Drunk on contraband alcohol and confident in his victory, he calls his cousin Rachel to coordinate additional media coverage. The prison records all phone calls, and Derrick's intoxicated confession provides devastating evidence. Make sure your story emphasizes how dangerous these military types are in civilian settings, Derrick slurs into the phone. We can't have people thinking inmates can fight back against legitimate authority figures like myself. Unknown to Derrick, Officer Martinez has been monitoring his communications for weeks. Alone in solitary confinement, Jalen practices meditation techniques that once calmed him before dangerous missions. Tomorrow, he'll face his most important battle without weapons, without backup, armed only with truth. But truth, as he learned in Afghanistan, is often the deadliest weapon of all. The question remains, will it be enough to overcome 12 years of systematic corruption? As dawn approaches, both men prepare for a confrontation that will determine not just Jalen's fate, but the entire future of Millfield Correctional Facility. Derrick has spent 12 years building his empire. Jalen has spent 12 seconds destroying it. Now they'll discover which foundation proves stronger, corruption or justice. The disciplinary hearing room feels like a courtroom where justice comes to die. Harsh fluorescent lights cast everything in sickly yellow. Present, Warden Steele, Deputy Warden James Harrison, Jalen's attorney Sarah Martinez, Derrick Collins with his 3 coached witnesses, and, unexpectedly, Officer Martinez carrying a thick folder that makes Derrick's eyes narrow with the first hint of concern. Derrick takes the stand first, his testimony polished through years of practice destroying innocent lives. Ma'am, I was simply trying to help Mr. Hunter adjust to prison life when he attacked me without warning. Derrick's voice carries manufactured sincerity. I've seen military guys struggle with civilian incarceration before. They can't tell the difference between combat zones and correctional facilities. His coached witnesses perform flawlessly. Tony Ricci describes identical events from his vantage point. Mike Santos corroborates every detail with suspicious precision. David Kim adds emotional weight about feeling terrorized by Hunter's military training. Derrick presents his manufactured evidence like a prosecutor seeking the death penalty. Medical photographs showing extensive injuries, witness statements sworn under oath. His trump card, a psychological evaluation from Dr. Reynolds, the corrupt prison psychologist, declaring Jalen extremely dangerous due to military conditioning that prevents distinguishing between battlefield and civilian environments. Sarah Martinez mounts her defense with limited ammunition. She presents Jalen's exemplary military service record: 8 years of distinguished service, multiple commendations, psychological evaluations showing perfect mental health. She emphasizes his clean prison record and cooperative behavior since arrival, but without concrete evidence against Derrick, It becomes one man's word against multiple accusers backed by medical documentation and expert testimony. Warden Steele reviews the evidence with growing frustration. Her instincts scream that Derrick is lying, but the paper trail appears overwhelming. 12 years of Derrick's careful relationship building with staff creates institutional bias in his favor. Then Officer Martinez stands. "Warden, I request permission to present evidence relevant to this case." Derrick's face flashes micro-expressions of concern, enough for Jalen, trained in reading enemy tells, to recognize Derrick's first crack of genuine fear. "This had better be substantial, Officer Martinez," Warden Steele warns. Martinez opens his folder like a prosecuting attorney, revealing smoking gun evidence. "Ma'am, I've documented systematic fraud spanning 18 months. He presents security footage from multiple incidents showing Derrick's crew targeting vulnerable inmates using identical tactics. The pattern is undeniable. Staged confrontations, coached witnesses, systematic extortion followed by false accusations when victims resist." The room's atmosphere shifts dramatically. Derrick's witnesses exchange nervous glances. Martinez continues with devastating precision. Financial forensics reveal Derrick's commissary accounts receiving regular deposits from multiple sources. Classic extortion evidence. Money trails connect to 6 different victims who filed complaints after refusing to pay Derrick's protection taxes. Tommy Nguyen's cyber research, presented through Martinez, exposes encrypted communications between Derrick and corrupt guards. Email timestamps align perfectly with previous false accusations. Derrick's own words convict him. Schedule the usual disciplinary action for the college boy. Make sure medical documents the injuries properly. The ghost needs permanent removal. Coordinate witness statements. Another military type causing problems. Handle it like we did with Rodriguez last year. As evidence mounts systematically, Derrick's psychological facade begins cracking. His confident posture shifts to defensive. Clenched jaw, rapid blinking, fidgeting hands. Jalen, trained to read psychological pressure during interrogations, recognizes Derrick's growing desperation. Martinez delivers the killing blow. "We've been monitoring Derrick's communications for weeks. His witnesses were questioned separately yesterday. Their stories collapse completely when examined individually, revealing coach testimony and intimidation tactics. Derrick's 3 witnesses suddenly find reasons to study their shoes rather than maintain eye contact. Furthermore," Martinez continues, "we searched Derrick's cell this morning. We found detailed notes about targeting specific inmates, stolen commissary items worth thousands, contraband alcohol, and most damaging, a trophy collection of personal items taken from his victims." He produces evidence bags containing dozens of photographs, letters, and personal items stolen from inmates over the years, including the destroyed photo of Jalen's sister, Maria. Cornered and desperate, Derrick abandons his victim facade completely. "This is all lies," he explodes, revealing his true nature for the first time. "They're setting me up because I exposed their drug operation." He points accusingly at Jalen. "He's planning to kill guards! He's making weapons! He threatened my family!" The transformation is complete, from reasonable victim to raging psychopath in seconds. Warden Steele stares in shock. Deputy Warden Harrison reaches for his radio. The 3 witnesses begin backing away from Derrick like he's radioactive. Jalen speaks for the first time, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone who has faced death and survived. "You made one mistake, Derrick." His words cut through the chaos like a blade. "You thought I was just another victim. But I've spent 8 years protecting people from predators exactly like you." He pauses, letting the weight of truth settle. "The only difference is that over there, I was allowed to put them down permanently." Derrick's complete psychological breakdown shatters 12 years of carefully constructed facades. The weight of total exposure destroys everything he built through fear and manipulation. "You think you're special?" Derrick screams, spittle flying from his mouth. "I've broken dozens of inmates like you. Everyone knows what I do. Guards, administration, even previous wardens. And they let me because I keep order. I am the order in this place." His confession implicates numerous staff members and reveals systematic corruption spanning multiple administrations. The disciplinary hearing becomes grounds for federal investigation. Throughout Derrick's breakdown, Jalen remains seated, unmoved by threats and rage. The contrast is stark. Derrick's loss of control versus Jalen's unwavering composure. Derrick's power came from intimidation. Jalen's strength comes from inner discipline forged in places where weakness meant death. In complete psychological collapse, Derrick lunges across the table at Jalen, screaming incoherently about killing him and his entire family. Guards restrain him, but Jalen doesn't even flinch. He simply watches Derrick's mental disintegration with the same calm he once used to observe enemy positions through rifle scopes. Derrick is immediately placed in solitary confinement pending federal criminal charges. His entire network of corrupt guards and staff members faces termination and prosecution. All charges against Jalen are dropped immediately. More importantly, Warden Steele issues a public apology and announces comprehensive investigation into institutional corruption. As the room empties, Jalen sits alone for a moment, reflecting on a truth learned in military service. Sometimes, the greatest victories come not from defeating enemies, but from having the patience to let them defeat themselves. Derrick spent 12 years building an empire on fear. Jalen destroyed it by refusing to be afraid. Derrick Collins' empire crumbles in 72 hours. Federal charges rain down like artillery fire: racketeering, extortion, civil rights violations, conspiracy, witness intimidation. His potential sentence? Life without parole plus 150 years. The investigation reveals his network stole $2.3 million from inmates and their families over 12 years. 8 guards received termination notices. 3 face criminal prosecution. The corrupt medical staff member who documented fake injuries flees to Mexico before arrest warrants arrive. But Derrick's downfall triggers something unprecedented in Millfield's violent history. Jalen Hunter transforms from victim to informal leader overnight. Gang members who once ignored him now seek his mediation for disputes. His reputation for fairness and refusal to abuse newfound power earns respect across all racial lines. Even hardened lifers nod respectfully when he passes. "You could run this place," Tommy Nguyen observes during their evening conversation. "Every faction would follow you." Jalen shakes his head, focused on his philosophy book. Leading through fear is Derrick's way. Real leaders create better people, not more followers. He begins conducting what he calls tactical awareness classes in the library, but instead of teaching combat, he focuses on conflict de-escalation and strategic thinking. Real strength, he tells his growing group of students, is knowing you could hurt someone and choosing not to. Any fool can throw a punch. It takes a warrior to walk away. His first student surprises everyone. Jake Morrison, Derrick's former lieutenant. "I spent 3 years following a psychopath," Jake confesses during their first session. "Teach me how to be better than what I was." Tommy uses his cyber skills to establish a prisoner rights advocacy program, creating secure channels for inmates to report abuse without retaliation. His documentation of Derrick's crimes becomes a template for investigating similar corruption nationwide. Officer Martinez receives promotion to Chief of Internal Affairs, tasked with creating oversight systems that prevent future Derrick Collins. His courage in exposing corruption despite personal risk becomes a model for ethical law enforcement. He implements Hunter protocols, systematic protection for inmates who report abuse, anonymous tip systems, and mandatory body cameras for all guard interactions. Warden Steele partners with Jalen to revolutionize Millfield's approach. Inmates with special skills become peer counselors and conflict mediators. Violence decreases 67% in 6 months. Educational program enrollment increases 234%. "You've done something I thought impossible," Steele tells Jalen during their monthly meeting. "You've made them believe change is possible." The transformation spreads beyond Millfield's walls. Jalen's Aunt Rosa, inspired by her nephew's strength, enrolls in law school specializing in prison reform and veterans' rights. Their weekly phone conversations shift from worry to strategic planning for helping other military families navigate the criminal justice system. "Miho, you found your mission again," she tells him. "Not destroying enemies this time, building allies." Derrick spends his remaining years in protective custody, transferred between facilities as his former empire dissolves completely. His crew members, freed from intimidation, testify against him in exchange for reduced sentences. The man who built power through fear dies alone in the system he once controlled. As Jalen's release date approaches, he reflects on an unexpected discovery. Prison, despite its horrors, taught him something the military couldn't. Combat skills preserve life, but wisdom preserves souls. Fighting isn't about defeating opponents. It's about protecting principles and people who can't protect themselves. Jalen and Tommy designed the Silent Strength program, teaching young men that true power comes from discipline, patience, and knowing when to stand up versus when to walk away. The program gained support from military veterans, law enforcement, community leaders, and professional athletes. Media coverage transforms from condemning Jalen as a dangerous criminal to featuring him as a prison reform advocate. His story becomes a documentary highlighting the difference between legitimate self-defense and unjustified violence. 24 months after entering Millfield, Jalen walks through the gates to find hundreds of supporters waiting. Former inmates whose lives he touched, guards who witnessed his integrity, military veterans, community members inspired by his story. His transformation from victim to leader becomes a national example of redemption through discipline rather than revenge. Instead of returning to military contracting, Jalen opens Ghost Tactical Community Center in his hometown. The facility teaches martial arts, conflict resolution, and life skills to at-risk youth and veterans struggling with reintegration. Every session begins with his core principle: learn to fight so you never have to. 5 years later, Jalen returns to Millfield as a guest speaker. The transformation is dramatic. Violence down 73%, educational enrollment up 289%, recidivism among program participants reduced to 8%. Standing in the same yard where Derrick once humiliated him, Jalen addresses a new group of incoming inmates. You can let this place break you, use this time to break others, or build something better. The choice is yours, but you don't have to make it alone. He pauses, remembering his own journey from victim to survivor to protector. Real warriors don't create fear, they create hope. The circle completes, from hunted to hunter to healer. 7 years after Derrick Collins' empire fell, the Silent Strength movement revolutionized American corrections. Jalen Hunter's approach now operates in 127 facilities across 47 states. Congressional hearings showcase documented success rates that force federal policy changes. The Hunter Protocol becomes mandatory in all federal facilities, requiring military-style discipline and conflict resolution training. President Biden presents Jalen with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in a White House ceremony broadcast to millions. This man transformed our understanding of what strength really means, the president announces. He proved that real warriors protect people, they don't prey on them. In his acceptance speech, Jalen credits unexpected allies. Tommy Nguyen taught me that intelligence beats brutality. Officer Martinez showed me that courage comes in many forms. Even Derrick Collins served a purpose. He showed us what happens when we let hate win over hope. The most stunning transformation comes from an unexpected source. Derrick Collins, 9 years into his sentence, requests to meet Jalen during a prison visit. Genuine therapy and education created profound change in the man who once ruled through terror. Their recorded conversation becomes a masterclass in redemption. I spent 38 years angry at the world for being unfair to me, Derrick says, his voice carrying genuine remorse. Turns out I was unfair to other people who had to survive. Jalen studies the man who once tried to destroy him. We all have choices to make every day. You're making better ones now. Too late for me to undo the damage, Derrick replies. But maybe it's not too late to help others avoid my mistakes. Derrick now leads anger management classes in his facility, using his own story as a cautionary tale about the destructive power of hatred. Director Ava DuVernay creates Ghost, the Jalen Hunter story, a 3-part documentary featuring interviews with everyone involved. The series won Emmy, Peabody, and Academy Awards, becoming required viewing in police academies and military training programs worldwide. Universities study the Millfield model as the gold standard for institutional reform. Jalen becomes a visiting professor at Harvard, Yale, and West Point, teaching courses on leadership under pressure and ethical decision-making. Tommy Nguyen emerges as the leading forensic cyber investigator specializing in institutional corruption. His techniques for tracking illegal networks are now taught at FBI headquarters and Interpol training facilities. Officer Martinez, now Deputy Commissioner of Corrections for 3 states, implements Jalen's principles across entire regional systems. His memoir, The Thin Blue Line Inside, became required reading for correctional officers nationwide. International delegations from 34 countries visit Jalen's community center to study his methods. The GHOST protocol adapts to different cultures while maintaining core principles. Strength protects, wisdom guides, discipline conquers chaos. Statistical analysis shows profound societal changes in communities where silent strength operates. Asterisk youth. Violent crime down 48% asterisk. High school graduation rates up 34% asterisk. Employment among former inmates up 67% asterisk. Family reunification success up 78%. Have you ever faced a bully who seemed impossible to defeat? Jalen Ghost Hunter proves that one person's courage to stand with principle, not violence, can transform entire systems. His story reminds us that real strength isn't about defeating enemies, it's about turning enemies into allies, victims into survivors, broken systems into forces for justice. Your mission, asterisk. Share this story with someone who needs to remember their inner warrior, asterisk. Support veteran reintegration programs in your community. Asterisk, subscribe for more stories of ordinary people creating extraordinary change. Asterisk. Comment below. What would you do in Jalen's situation? Have you ever found strength in unexpected places? In a world that celebrates loud confrontation, Jalen Hunter chose a disciplined response. In a system designed to break spirits, he chose to build bridges. In a place where violence seemed the only language, he spoke fluently in justice and redemption. His story isn't just about one SEAL defeating one bully. It's about all of us choosing who we want to be when facing impossible odds. Subscribe for more stories that prove, asterisk, the underestimated often possess the greatest power, asterisk. Justice delayed isn't always justice denied, asterisk. Sometimes the quietest person carries the loudest truth, asterisk. Real warriors create peace. They don't just win wars, ring the notification bell, because everyone deserves to remember their own strength. Derrick Collins learned too late that fear is temporary, but respect is eternal. Jalen Hunter proved that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who chooses not to fight. Until next time, stay strong, stay silent, stay ready.